feeling is so sharp and so hollowing. And John's absence is all-consuming for all of you right now. It's like being sucked into a black hole inside your chest. And it's frightening. But I know something else, unfortunately, from experience. That there's nothing anyone can say or do to ease the pain right now. But I pray take some comfort, knowing that because you shared John with all of us your whole life, the world now shares with you the ache of John's death. Look around this magnificent church. Look what you saw coming at the state capitol. And as 6 months will go by and everybody's going to think, well, it's past. But you're going to ride by that field or smell that fragrance or see that flashing image. You're going to feel like you did the day you got the news. But you know you're going to make it. And the image of your dad, your husband, your friend, crosses your mind, and a smile comes to your lip before a tear to your eye. That's who you know. And I promise you, I give you my word, I promise you, this I know. That day will come. That day will come. You know, I'm sure my former colleagues and all who work with John, I'm sure there's people who have said to you, not only now, but the last 10 years, explain this guy to me. Right? Explain this guy to me. Because as they looked at him, in one sense they admired him, but in one sense, the way things have changed so much in America, they look at him as if John came from another age, that he lived by a different code, an ancient, antiquated code where honor, courage, character, integrity, duty, where it mattered, because that was obvious how John lived his life. But the truth is, John's code was ageless, is ageless. When you talked earlier, Grant, you talked about values. It wasn't about politics with John. He could disagree on substance. It was the underlying values that animated everything John did. Everything he was could come to a different conclusion. Or where he'd part company with you if you lack the basic values of decency, respect, knowing that this project is bigger than yourself. John's story is the American story. That's not hyperbole. It sounds like it's the American story, grounded in respect and decency, basic fairness, the intolerance for the abuse of power. Many of you have traveled the world. Look how the rest of the world until recently looks at us. They look at us a little naive. We're so fair. We're so decent. We're the naive Americans. But that's who we are. That's who John was. And he could not stand the abuse of power wherever he saw it, in whatever form, in whatever country. It's always about basic values, John: fairness, honesty, dignity, respect, giving hate no safe harbor, leaving no one behind, and understanding that as Americans we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. With John, it was a value set that was neither selfish nor self-serving. John understood that America was first and foremost an idea, audacious and risky, organized around not tribe, but around ideals. Think of how he approached every issue. The ideals that Americans have rallied around for over 200 years, the ideals that the world has repaired to. An idea enshrined in the Constitution sounds corny. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. To John, those words had meaning, as they have for every great patriot that has ever served this country. We both love the Senate. Proudest years of my life for being a United States Senator. And I was honored to be Vice President, but being a United States Senator. And we both lamented watching it change. During long debates in the 80s and 90s, as some of the colleagues who were around then would know, I'd always go over and sit next to John, next to his seat. Or he'd come over on the Democratic side and sit next to me. No, I'm not joking. Because we'd sit there and we'd talk to each other. And I can remember the day when I came out to see John, we reminisced about it. It was in 96. And we were about to adjourn for what we call the caucuses. There's a luncheon once a week that all the Democratic senators have lunch together and all the Republican senators. And we both went into our caucus, and coincidentally, we were approached by our caucus leaders with the same thing, raised as a discussion. Joe, it doesn't look good you sit next to John all the time. I swear to God. Same thing was said to John in your caucus. That's when things began to change for the worse in America, in the Senate. That's when it changed. What happened was, at those times, it was always appropriate to challenge another senator's judgment, but never appropriate to challenge their motive. When you challenge their motive, it's impossible to get to go. If I say you're doing this because you're being paid off, if I say you're doing this because you're not a good Christian, if I say you're doing this because you're this, that, or other, it's impossible to reach consensus. Think about it in your personal lives. But all we do today is attack the oppositions of both parties, their motives, not the substance of their argument. This was the mid-90s. Well, it began to go downhill from there. The last day, John was on the Senate floor. What was he fighting to do? He was fighting to restore what we call regular order. To start to treat one another again, like we used to. Senate was never perfect, John. You know that. We were there a long time ago. But I'd watch Teddy Kennedy and James O. Eastland fight like hell on civil rights, and they'd go have lunch together down the Senate dining room. John wanted to see, quote, regular order writ large. Get to know one another. You know, John and I were both amused, and I think Lindsay was at one of these events where John and I received two prestigious awards. The last year I was vice president, and then one immediately after, for our dignity and respect we showed to one another. We received an award for civility in public life. There's a college, Allegheny County, college puts out this prestigious award every year for bipartisanship. And John and I look at each other and say, what the hell's going on here? No, not a joke. I say to Senator Flake, that's how it's always supposed to be. We get an award? No, I'm serious. Think about this. getting an award for your civility, getting an award for bipartisanship. In classic John, won at Allegheny College, and hundreds of people there, and got the award. And John, the Senate was in session, and so he spoke first. And as he walked off the stage and I walked on, he looked at me and said, Joe, don't take it personally, but I just don't want to hear what the hell you have to say. And left. One of John's major campaign people is now with the Senate, with the governor of Ohio, was on this morning. I happened shaving, happened to watch it, and he said that Biden and McCain had this strange relationship. They always seemed to have each other's back. Whenever I was in trouble, John was the first guy there. And I hope I was there for him. And we never hesitate to give each other advice. He'd call me in the middle of the campaign and say, "What the hell did you say that for?" Well, not an issue. Like, you just screwed up, Joe, you know? And I'd occasionally call him. Look, I've been thinking this week about why John's death has hit the country so hard. Yes, he was a long-serving senator with a remarkable record. Yes, he was a two-time presidential candidate who captured the support and imagination of the American people. And yes, John was a war hero who demonstrated extraordinary courage. I think of John, and I must say my son, when I think of Ingersoll's words, when the will defies fear, when duty throws the gauntlet down to fate, when honor scorns to compromise with death, that is heroism. Everybody knows that about John. But I don't think it fully explains why the country has been so taken by John's passing. I think it's something more intangible. I think it's because they knew John believed so deeply and so passionately in the soul of America that he made it easier for them to have confidence and faith in America. His faith in the core values of this nation made them somehow feel it more genuinely themselves. His conviction that we as a country would never walk away from the sacrifices generations of Americans have made to defend liberty and freedom and human dignity around the world. It made average Americans proud of themselves and their country. His belief, and it was deep, that Americans can do anything, withstand anything, achieve anything, was both unflagging and ultimately reassuring. If this man believed that so strongly. His capacity that we truly are the world's last best hope, that we're the beacon to the world, that there are principles and ideals greater than ourselves and worth suffering, sacrificing for, and if necessary, dying for. Americans saw how he lived his life that way, and they knew the truth of what he was saying. I just think he gave Americans confidence. John was a hero. His character, courage, honor, integrity. But I think the thing that's understated the most is his optimism. That's what made John special. Made John a giant among all of us. But in my view, John didn't believe that America's future and fate rested on heroes. We used to talk about, and I liked most about him, is he understood what I hope we all remember. Heroes didn't build this country. Ordinary people being given half a chance are capable of doing extraordinary things. Extraordinary things. He believed in the American people. All 325